Wow. 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 So us non-Muslims, that is us infidels, according to the Islamo-Fascist demented ideology, us non-Muslims are guilty. We are innocent because by not accepting Islam, we committed crime against God. This goes to show the demented thinking of Islamo-Fascism. And I don't care what political correctness says. This ideology is demented, and this is why we have to win this war. We have to win this war. But you see, this is the path Europe's taking. Bernard Lewis, the Middle East expert, he said that Europe is going to be Islamic by the end of the century. Europe will be Islamic by the end of the century, according to the respected Middle East expert, Bernard Lewis. That's what he said. I mean, of course, I didn't show you the part of the interview where he said he won't condemn a fellow Muslim, but show you the part where he said that non-Muslims are criminals because they don't accept Islam, so therefore, according to his demented thinking, they are guilty of crimes against Allah, according to his demented thinking. So now we'll show you the part where he says that he'll never condemn a fellow Muslim in that same interview.
As far as Muslims are concerned, their allegiance is always with the Muslims. So I will never condemn a Muslim for what he does. Indeed, I must side with him, whether he's an oppressor or oppressed.
Sheikh Bakri declared Britain to be Dar al-Harb, which basically means a land of war, a land where...
This has always been Dar al-Harb. This has always been Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Harb is a place where there is non-Islamic law. The whole world today is Dar al-Harb.
The point about being a land which is Dar al-Harb is that you and your group therefore feel you have license to conduct violent operations within it.
Fact is that the whole world is Dar al-Harb. There are certain areas where the Muslims are actively liberating their land.
So why on the 18th of January did Umar Bakri declare Britain to be Dar al-Harb? If it's always been the case, why did he choose to say it?
Yeah, because you never bothered to listen to him before. But the fact is that Britain changed from being Dar al-Harb to being Dar al-Fitna. Dar al-Fitna is a place where the Muslims no longer have sanctity for their life and their wealth. That was the change. Otherwise, Britain has always been Dar al-Harb.
Zawahri has said that he believes there will be, should be, new operations in London, inshallah, God willing. You feel the same way?
Well, I think that's inevitable. If you don't change the cause of what took place on 7/7...
I'm not asking you if you feel it's inevitable. I'm asking you if, like him, you are calling for them.
No, what we're calling for the British public and the British government to wake up. Withdraw your forces from the
I'm asking you not to talk about the British government. I'm asking you to give me your opinion on Al-Qaeda's leaders' new calls for attacks in the United Kingdom and in London.
That's his call, isn't it? So obviously...
So I'm asking you, will you condemn it?
No, I can never condemn a Muslim brother. I will never condemn a Muslim brother. I will always stand with my Muslim brother.
So you stand with him, you want those attacks to continue in London. You stand with him, you just said it.
I'm finished my sentence, haven't I? Let me finish my sentence. I will stand with my Muslim brother whether he's an oppressed...
Again! Wow! He says that no matter what, he will never stand against a fellow Muslim. Wow. That's just amazing. That is just amazing. You know, what a piece of filth this Anjem Chowdhury is. What a freaking piece of filth he is. How can we believe that Islam is a religion of peace if we have people like that? I mean, of course there are some decent Muslims, but that's beyond the point, but this video is not about them, so. But the point is that if Islam is a religion of peace, if we're supposed to believe it is, it should behave like the dominant current of that religion should behave like one. It's not enough to have some peaceful interpretations in a religion to decide that a religion is a religion of peace. To have a religion of peace, the dominant currents have to behave peaceful, which means that the prominent areas of the Arab Muslim world, the prominent areas there are going to have to, that means they're going to have to encourage peace. We're going to have to encourage peace in the non-Muslim world. Are going to have to encourage peace with Israel. Are going to have to basically seriously condemn these Islamic terrorists, like, and all that. And actually promote scholars who want peace, not scholars like Qaradawi, like Yusuf Qaradawi, who is really a piece of filth who supports suicide bombings on Israel. Not guys like him. No! Real moderates, not these fake moderates who really are with the radicals, who really support terrorism on Israel, who really are collaborate with these vile, vicious, slimy, Islamo-Fascist, Nazi-like, jihadist terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. No. But anyway, I think I may have been getting a bit ahead of myself, talking about what's happening in Europe. Why is Europe becoming Eurabia? That's what this video is mainly talking about. Basically, that's what this video is mainly talking about. And right now, I mean, for example, you see, of course, you see Israeli officials, you see these radical Palestinian groups and Islamo-Fascists want to, of course, put Israeli political figures on trial, the latest of which, I mean, Tzippi Livni, who is the former foreign minister of Israel. She couldn't even go to London. She couldn't even go to London because there was a court that had an arrest warrant for her. There was a court that had an arrest warrant for her. Why? Why? For taking part in Israel's defensive operation, Operation Cast Lead. Operation Cast Lead. I mean, of course, in that operation, Israel sent leaflets and made telephone calls telling the civilians to leave because it was going to bomb those areas. I mean, Israel was targeting rocket launchers, terrorists, and the weapons, which were, of course, in civilian areas, because Hamas has no value for human life, because Hamas and these other groups are vile, slimy, vicious, they're vile, slimy, vicious beasts. That's why. They're vile, slimy, vicious beasts that have no value for human life, even on their own side. So while they fire rockets at civilians, they hide among civilians. But yet, despite these facts, and despite Israel going out of her way to not kill innocent civilians, even warning civilians then and only being careful only to target terrorists, despite that, a London court had the chutzpah to have an arrest warrant for Tzippi Livni. Had the chutzpah to have an arrest warrant for her. So basically, a London court had an arrest warrant for her just for taking part in defending Israel, just for taking part in defending Israel from terrorism. A London court had an arrest warrant for her. What an outrage! What a freaking outrage! Where are the arrest warrants for Ahmadinejad, who basically, of course, killed and tortured so many people? In fact, basically, he killed and tortured so many people. In fact, I think Iranian political prisoners, of course, have stories where he was taking part in torturing them during the beginning of the revolution. But Ahmadinejad killed and tortured so many people, and look at what's going on right now. He's among those who are basically shooting pro-democracy freedom fighters who are rising up to free their country. He is among those oppressing them. Where's the arrest warrants for Ahmadinejad? Where? Despite that, you see, Ahmadinejad, of course, a few years ago was invited to Colombia, and he was invited to the UN and all that. And he got security. Who the hell? Who would be in their right mind to provide this terrorist scum security? Who would be in their freaking right mind to provide this terrorist scum security? It's outrageous. It's so outrageous. So outrageous. What are the arrest warrants for Hamas leaders who basically hide among civilians, sent terrorists to kill Israeli men, women, and children, and does all sorts of stuff like that? They even, of course, attack Israelis who provide them with the humanitarian aid force. Hamas that wants to create the humanitarian crisis, as there's plenty of proof showing, but while Israel and the US and the EU want while Israel, the US, and the EU, of course, go out of their way to avoid a humanitarian crisis, Hamas wants one in order to blame Israel. But the facts are, Human Rights Watch had a report. It had a report in which they were criticizing Hamas's human rights violations. Let me just read you some of it.